Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the New Fashion Conservatives podcast. I'm your host, Justin Phillips, and with me, as always, is the one and only Shadow Governor Voss.
Robin Voss's strongest soldier.
And joining us once again for a very special episode is the one and only Wisconsin's conservative sponge, known to the X-verse as Wiz Political and soaking up liberal tears. Sponge, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, glad to be back, guys.
And fellas, this week has been a really rough one for teachers. And so many of them have been in the news for the wrong reasons. But before we really kind of tie all of those stories together, we have to talk a little campaign news. And so the big one this week, a couple big ones this week, but the first one we're going to talk about, Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice Annette Ziegler announced she will not seek re-election in 2027, which created a lot of doomerism on the right because she couldn't even wait until after the April election, knowing full well that the conservative side was going to be in a deep minority. She chose to walk away. And this is a woman who was first elected to the Supreme Court in 2007 after spending years on the Washington County bench, and won re-election in 2017 unopposed. So shocking way to see the court shift from the past 10 years, having to go from a conservative candidate running without opposition to now these brutal, expensive, tough races where the conservative side doesn't seem to come out on top. So fellas, Shadow Gov, we'll start with you. Thoughts on Justice Ziegler announcing her stepping away from the court?
Well, I don't quite understand the reasoning for announcing now. Mm-hmm. I mean, it doesn't do you any good announcing right before this. I mean, I just think it kind of takes, if there was any air in the room, it took whatever was left out. It's just like, oh, okay, the sitting Supreme Court justice has no faith. I mean, she could have announced the day after April 7th, the week after, the month after. It's just a little, it's just a little premature, I feel like. I mean, obviously, I'm not a Supreme Court justice, so, don't take my advice. She's way smarter than me. But I think she could have waited a little bit. So other than that, it was just, it's a little depressing to hear that. Obviously, she's been on the bench for 20 years. But, as someone who has been on the bench for 20 years, she's probably earned a retirement as well. Mm-hmm. But I still would have, me being a selfish Republican conservative voter, it would have been nice to have an incumbent going into the next Supreme Court election.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this one hurt just as bad as Bradley's announcement, right? So, but I think if there was whatever rallying call that we would have had in April, let's stick it out. We'll at least still have these incumbents we can run and work with, and it seems that they kind of see the writing on the wall in the dwindling minority that it seems we're facing.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to, look at the future of the court and have to convince, a judge on a lower tier to, hey, come do this thing and be in the minority and not win out on these cases very often for the foreseeable future. But
I mean, imagine you get a new job and you can't even really do anything until you're 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't blame, you want to get in there, you want to start doing stuff right away. But someone's got to do it. But you would have to imagine someone will be like, I'll take a shot. Mm-hmm. Maybe even it is a long shot. And of course, the most interesting, we're going to looking down the barrel of a minority. And I know obviously Hagedorn was elected in 2019. I am correct. 18, sorry. So, I mean, that's not too far away. I mean, is Hagedorn, does he play on the kind of, I've played, not both sides, but like I've played it down the middle in a way. Does that garner you any points?
I think we're going to have some lessons after April. No matter how April shakes out, I think we'll have a better read on maybe how to run that.
Yep.
I'm breaking my own rule. I don't like to analyze those elections before the ones in front of us have concluded. So
we have enough content on him at a later date.
And you were right. It was 2019. I was wrong on the date. We can once again play the game.
I just remember for some reason, I was in a bar in downtown Milwaukee. I remember the results coming in and being shocked at how close it was and pulling it out. But yeah, I guess we'll have to see. That's a little ways off though. But yeah, kind of a little bit of a letdown. Needed some good news. Yeah, we could have done without that one. Done without that headline.
One final point I think on this is whatever is occurring behind the scenes is how the court operates, how they're functioning with one another, if they're on even speaking terms or not speaking terms. I think it sends a pretty clear signal of there's a lot of friction there. Just, I would say, even between how they interpret laws, but also just personal. I think it's pretty well known that those on the actual United States Supreme Court, they may disagree on judicial philosophy, but they at least somewhat get along with one another. I wonder what those relationships look like at the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And I would love to be a fly on the wall in those conversations.
Well, you might not have to be a fly on the wall. Maybe Supreme Court justice that's retiring wants to.
She can come on the show and tell us all those Supreme Court secrets.
I mean, what? I mean, who cares now? If you're retiring, why not? I mean, we don't need a tell-all, memoir or something. But I don't know. Maybe there's some insight. I just kind of assume that they all have their own office. They all write their own opinions in their own little office, and then they all kind of, we're going to release this decision. I'm not a lawyer. Again, this is my one of my many weak spots is the law, that kind of stuff. I need third party help. So yeah, maybe another interview for the future. We'll just lob that one out there. Kobe, someone to see if someone picks that up.
If you're listening or you're a clerk listening, get us in contact.
Yeah.
Reach out to us. Our DMs are open.
As always.
Fellas, let me give you a little bit of a bright spot. So earlier this week, I had the pleasure of just sitting down and grabbing a coffee with Mike Roberts, who is running for the open state Senate seat, one of the ones that are, a must win for conservatives if they want to hold the majority in the state Senate.
I think I'm trying to think of the open seats.
This would be replacing Rob Hutton.
Correct.
So that is the seat that has a little bit, or it has Tosa and West Allis, has Brookfield and runs out to Pewaukee, and running against
Robin Vining.
Yes.
The awful.
Yes.
If you will.
Yeah.
She's the quintessential embodiment of Wauwatosa.
Yeah, but Mike's a small business owner, healthcare professional. He owns and founded Wisconsin Orthopedic Physical Therapy. I talked to him, ended up for about 90 minutes, and, he can talk about issues in a way that I think will resonate not just with conservative voters, but with moderate, independent, and even leaning Democrat voters about fixing the healthcare system, but not doing it through government subsidies or through expanding, public options or creating, or universal healthcare in the state. No, he wants to attack this from the experience he has to, figure out ways to solve things. And he wants to be that problem solver. So again, had a great conversation with him. Looking forward to having him on the show in the near future. But I was really heartened about that.
Does that hurt him?
I don't know. He's a good guy.
Okay. Well,
I think just having his background, right? Learning about his healthcare background, learning about his. I like his posts that I've seen. I mean, I think.
Oh no, I think based off, obviously social media isn't real life, but hey, as we've learned from the 2024 election, Twitter is not nothing, but it's certainly something. Yeah, he seems that he has the right message. He knows what he needs to talk about. He knows how to talk about it in a way that is digestible and, a bit of bipartisanship. And being a healthcare worker, huge for that. Yeah. Being able to actually, I can't talk about healthcare policy. I'm fully aware of that. Wow. I need to read a script. I need to read a breakdown, a paper, AI, please digest this for me. Zero interest, and I fully am okay with admitting that.
No, he gets it, and
but he gets it.
It's the healthcare side. It's a business side. It's being a small business owner, healthcare professional, and he knows what it takes to win. He is surrounding himself with the right people, and knows that this is one in the grassroots. This is one on the doors, and he is not going to be outworked.
Well, and Robin Vining. Now, although I don't know a lot about her, I do know that she is an empty vassal as far as just the regular Democrat talking points. I'm assuming, and I don't know her, but just based off of, you see stuff online, you see the social media, there's not a whole lot. It's just talking points. Talking about healthcare generally. Oh, we want to improve the quality of healthcare. We want the costs of healthcare. Now, as someone who actually works in it, business owner, can actually speak to those things concretely, the only thing that I give pause is that liberals really don't need a whole lot of details to vote for somebody. As far as like those I like to have that stuff because I'm detail oriented about that stuff. But do I think the East Side Tosa people are going to be like, oh my gosh, I really like your nuanced take to healthcare? It's just like,
no, but
I don't know.
Again, one of the things going for him is orthopedic, his company, the Orthopedic Physical Therapy of Wisconsin has offices in Tosa. Those are some of his people. So it's not like he's going to sacrifice the Wauwatosa West Allis side. And let's remember, West Allis still has an older population of those Walker Democrats, Reagan Democrats. So
yeah, you definitely get different demographics there than I think Elm Grove is part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, and if you ever need a healthcare policy take, I'm not going to give away my background too much, but I mean, I have been attracted to his candidacy when he announced, and I, fully support it. I mean, I reached out to the campaign, and I think not only is his background sorely needed, but I think it would be a major value add to the institution that is the Wisconsin State Senate, rather than just someone that's going to regurgitate party lines.
Hey, we have a purpose, okay?
No, but
some of us have to do that.
From a D perspective, though.
I know.
And I think
I tease.
I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but when you start to think of bringing leaders together to craft and actually vet legislation, I think a voice like his is needed. So
I think he's one of the most put together state Senate candidates that the state has had in a long time.
He's a great recruit.
Yeah. I was just going to say whoever.
I don't think you could have asked for.
No,
you cannot draw up a better.
Where's he from? Is he from Brookfield?
Pewaukee.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
Probably the only thing I would say that would make him the A++. Like he's an A+ candidate, but the A++ if he was from Tosa, but his business being from Tosa is like A+ then minus. Like you can't. Yeah. I'm like nitpicking.
Yeah. And I think isn't Pewaukee part of that district? So?
Yeah.
And he knows that this needs to be won on the doors. There's people that are chomping at the bit, ready to go to knock doors for him. And you got to think that the grassroots organizations are going to be a big part of this one. They see this one as the must win, and they're going to throw everything they can at it. It's going to be an expensive race.
How old is he?
He's pretty young.
Roughly my age.
Yeah. Or I should say young as in the term of when you think of your stereotypical state senator.
He's under the age of 60. So
by several years.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's going to, that's what you need to. I mean, Robin Vining's young as well. So it's going to be.
She's wildly ineffective. Let's talk about that. Like, I don't know if she's actually passed a bill. And
no.
And that sounds like, well, she's a Democrat. She's in the minority. She can't pass things. No. Everyone gets one. Like, if you have an idea or need a Democrat to support your idea, you want to get something bipartisan across the finish line, like those wins happen all the time. Like when 95-ish% of the bills in the legislature are bipartisan or nonpartisan, you're telling me she can't think of one of those, like, let's rename a road for some sort of honorarium, or like, let's, some little fix to the state statute
that brings a 3-word change
that brings us in line with federal guidelines so we can access the federal money. Like
something with an emotional story or something that everyone kind of gets on board with.
She's done nothing.
Yeah. And it's just kind of been, I mean, and this is not exclusive to her, but kind of just the resist Democrat, just resist everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything the Republicans do is bad. They need to stand up and tell them how evil they are and how they don't consider, how they hate minorities or women or yada, yada, yada,
Mm-hmm.
yada. That is kind of her. And to be fair, I think she represents her district pretty well. I don't know if their district really cares if she doesn't pass anything.
No, they care more about their white wine and
yes,
their
but
hate has no home here signs.
They want people to get yell at Republicans. They want them to be confrontational, kind of abrasive or whatever. So I think she represents her district perfectly, honestly. So, but that'll be a huge. I mean, whoever says doors don't matter need to reevaluate their lives. If he's at the door though, if he is as impressive as I think he is, you just got to repeat that over and over again, and hopefully just cut down the margins in Wauwatosa from Assad to slightly less than Assad.
I would be very curious, just doing a side-by-side of his life story versus her life story.
Well,
backgrounds. I'm
pretty sure she's a former pastor, so that tells you.
And we're going to put that in air quotes.
Oh yeah. When I say
legitimately shocking
from the Universal Life Church, because she can get people married or something.
If you had given me 10 guesses on her profession, I never would have known that.
It's state legislator. Like, she's a professional politician. Just sits there and collects paychecks.
So if I'm Mike, then the question is do we really need another one of these people? How many of these professional politicians do we have? And I know we say this every 2 or 4 years, but really,
because it works. Because it works.
Oh yeah, it's working so well. That's why no legislation ever seems to get passed, and if it does, nothing monumental seems to ever change. Not that I ever look to government to fix any of my problems, but
fair. But I think he's got the right. All he's got to do is, money is obviously a huge, but that district, obviously, there's a lot of money.
Yep, I was going to say his background in those. I don't want to call them special interests, but the corporations, the corporate lobbying packs. That's going to be some big influence.
He's got the right people behind him.
As long as Wauwatosa doesn't seem to find more Democrat votes, because it continues to just veer off a cliff, and it's like, can Wauwatosa get any more blue? 5 more, 6, 7 more points.
Let's remember that was we talked about this before on and off the air, that like Wauwatosa is what gave us Scott Walker, what gave us Leah Vukmir, and now it's what gives us Robin Vining, and it's the millennials.
It's going to get worse.
Just had to move there.
I think Robin Vining's like tame.
Yeah.
In reality, compared to obviously
probably the Wauwatosa School Board. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it'll bother me to no end with that the Tosa School Board shut down one of their best STEM schools because it was too white.
Yep.
There were too many white kids doing well.
Fellas, we're talking about a young candidate, a vibrant guy who has all the right things going for him. We got to shift gears a little. And we've already talked about this fella twice and titled 2 of our podcasts after him, but we got to do it a third time.
We might have. I don't know what the title's going to be yet.
Well, let's see. Every year in spring, I have some flowers, some perennials that come up. And with those perennials is Tommy Thompson kicking the tires on running for office again. Now, for those who maybe don't know, because if you're younger than me, you've probably, if you were born in the 2000s, you have never known Tommy Thompson, the elected official. You might have known him as the healthcare, the HHS secretary,
but
the failed candidate for U.S. Senate in 2012. But, when I was born, Tommy Thompson was first taking office.
Wild.
He had an amazing career in Wisconsin.
Takes nothing away from it. Yeah.
He's legendary.
He'll have a statue probably somewhere someday.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a school at the UW-Madison named after him. Like, but that's a good end cap to your career. At 86 or whatever, 84, running for office again because your ego won't let you sit out an election? Guys, what is he doing?
I don't know. All I'm going to say is he seemed really fired up during 2024 and other contests. But yeah, we're obviously looking for new leadership, new leaders, the next generation. And I guess at this point, different leaders from another part of the state rather than where they've traditionally been. And I think, I don't know what we're doing, why we're floating this.
Who's
floating?
So this is the thing. I didn't know. I mean, Tommy's still he's still with it. He still does speeches. He
could still rally the crowds like the best of them,
and that's great.
Yeah, he's no fantastic. Biden.
Where Harleys roar and Packers soar. Wait,
I'm
Eagles?
sure I'm sure there's always going to be something in Tommy's head that's going to be like, I still got it. I can still do it.
Yeah,
I think that'll never change. Tommy will always be like that, but I don't think Tommy is going and planting seeds places. I don't think he's doing that. I just think that he naturally is like, yeah, I could still do this. Like I could still have an impact. And, God bless him for wanting to still kind of, he could just go into retirement. He could just go to the fundraisers and kind of be in the background a little bit and still be very impactful. And that could be a fantastic way to, enjoy your retirement. But, he still is active, as much as he can. But this is someone planting like little stories, and I don't like it, and it's getting really annoying. And if it wasn't annoying before, now you're making me mad.
And this one I think is like the kind of the weakest of the rumors. I know it went in August or October, whatever it was. He was on TMJ4, or
that
TMJ
was a little bit more,
and he's like,
real.
Sure, I could do it again, sort of thing. But this is like, I think there are people who want to be influential. They want to feel like they're in the know, and they want to spread this rumor and see their name attached to this rumor, more so than I think Tommy actually wants to run.
Yeah, I agree. And I if someone thinks that this is, I don't know if it's selfish motivations, if it's other motive, maybe they don't like Tom and they just want to like sow division. Like, well, screw you if that's the case. Yeah. But like, and I was going to say, like, this does not help. Like, do I think this is like, oh my gosh, Tom's race is doomed? Absolutely not. But like, this doesn't help.
No, but the
Democrats get another news cycle out of this.
There are still Tommy sycophants out there who worked with him in his campaign in 92 and 94, 94 and 98, and think, well, he could do it then, and we could run it back this time. And they just see him again. It's this cult of personality around Tommy and the sycophantic way that former staffers feel towards him. And maybe it's just the nostalgia, like 90s nostalgia is really in right now.
I don't think anyone that's peddling this actually believes he's going to run. Mm-hmm. So I think there's some other ulterior motive that they're using it for. And I don't necessarily know what it is, but I don't think anyone that, has been with Tommy for this long is like, oh yeah, he's going to lace up and sub in. Like, I don't think anyone that's saying this stuff actually believes that, but they are trying to, either they're getting money from somebody, or there's, another interest, or they don't like Tom and they want someone else to run potentially. And they're like, oh, well, the door's still open, which it's not. The door is closed. Like, Tom is our guy.
Yep.
That isn't changing. If, there are probably some people that don't like Tom or something, and I don't know who those people are, but, we're not a monolith. Republicans always have disagreements. But
I'm still half and half, but I'm not out here rooting for some other candidate.
Get on board. Get both feet in the boat, buddy.
I'm reposting the stuff.
You got to row.
I've been talking to people. I like the idea that we're putting forth a candidate from a different part of the state.
We're giving them a full shot.
Yep.
There's no excuses.
And, Congress people typically don't do well when they try to run for statewide office. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
But the one example of that's Mark Green in 06. And again, there's a lot of national factors and all those things. Again, you're right. We've talked about this before on the history. And in fact, that should exclude Tommy from running again, because if you've lost statewide, it's really hard to come back, and no one's really done it. So again, in this case, we've already got that guy. So with that, fellas, one more campaign related information. I'm gonna try to choose my words carefully on this one. I know it's this week, the national scene has been one of tragedy in Michigan and Virginia, with some in Texas, I think that was last week maybe, but there was some Islamic inspired.
You said New York, right?
Terrorism. Oh, yes. You're right.
New York was a big one.
Yeah, right.
Well, if we're to believe CNN's reporting,
yes.
it was actually just...
They were trying to bomb Mom Donnie's house.
Yeah.
But look...
Holy cow, that was bad.
If I'm a politician and I'm thinking of the worst way to introduce an endorsement I've received, it's probably around the same time when people are associating that group with terrorism. And what I'm getting at here is Mike Hallquist, who's running for mayor in Brookfield, who is the most liberal beta male you could possibly envision.
Soy.
Has announced proudly his endorsement of Wisconsin Muslim Civic Alliance. Now, again, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not trying to equate a one-to-one between Islam and the Muslim community and terrorism. It just seems like it's a poorly timed sort of juxtaposition to be like, yes, I have their endorsement. Let's ignore all these things in these other states going on right now.
Well,
and then to talk further, and I'll throw it over to you guys after this, like the mayor of Brookfield, Brookfield seems like a mostly white community. Like, does this really have any sort of impact? So
that's what I'm trying to get at.
I have the answer, but continue.
Sure. What are these endorsements? One, why are these endorsements important? I don't necessarily think, I'm not saying that I grew up in Brookfield, but being around there, I don't necessarily know that this endorsement is going to sway any actual voters. But two, I think a lot of these races have now become just, can we get some endorsement from some group, and you're beholden to whatever interests that they may lie. I'd rather just go back to, I won the majority of the votes by running a race on these XYZ positions or these things that I wanted to put forth. And, that's why I was elected, rather than cobbling together a coalition of special interest groups. I guess I set aside the fact, I just don't know why this is a value add and why the campaign feels they need to highlight this.
Well, I'll tell you, it's come huddle in. I'll tell you, it's really simple. And I think Dan Schaefer, and I'm not praising him, I'm just saying what he said. He's running as an abashed Democrat. There is no we're nonpartisan, it's a nonpartisan race. I'm for both sides. Dude is running as just a Democrat. Now, that doesn't mean he puts on his lit, I'm a Democrat. Of course he's going to try to gain votes wherever he can. But he's about as running as probably as partisan of a race as possible, while still not having a D in front of his name. And the Muslim Civic Alliance, and I'll be honest, if he's got a number of other endorsements, I'm not aware of them. But with the Muslim Civic Alliance, it's just leftist coded. It is. It's just
100%.
It's just Democrat coded.
I'm on their Facebook page right now looking at some other candidates, and they're it's straight Democrats. I mean, you got the mayor of Franklin, John Nelson, being in there. You've got the mayor candidate for Waukesha, the Alicia Helblos, and then Diane Voigt, the candidate for the one remaining
from the Waukesha School
District. She needs to go to.
Yeah, so
it's just it's just a Democrat org, and it's kind of a virtue signal to just Democrat voters to say, the Muslim Civic Alliance, it's leftist coded, leftist aligned. Therefore, I'll vote for him as of that reason. So it's really kind of honestly, it's kind of for the quote unquote base. Or I'm assuming Blue Sky.
I was just going to say it's Waukesha. Blue
probably
Sky.
Endorsed him. It's probably it's the same thing, So it's not oh my gosh, there's a strategic value to gaining the Muslim vote in Brookfield, which I don't think there is much of one. But maybe if he wins, maybe there will be. I don't know. And so it's just a virtue signal. It's really comes down to that simple. And yeah, he's been on Twitter X, for a while, and we've gone back and forth. So I feel this one's a little personal, and I hope that he loses. And it was, I think it was a year or two ago, he was talking to people, anonymous people, and basically saying anybody that had anything that's to say about border security was a white, pointy hat KKK member or something. So this guy, maybe he's reigned in the social media.
I actually prefer
discipline.
when immigrants don't try to kill me.
Well, yeah, trust me, I know. But just the mere thought of even just basic border policy, he was like, no, you're a white supremacist for it. So that's kind of the Democrat we're dealing with. It's not just your, I hope our municipality runs well and everything. It's like full blood, full bore Democrat.
Wonder if he believes in Brookfield's borders. Does he want these borders expanded? Does he believe in the municipality borders?
They're going to take over Butler.
Well, kind of. He certainly wants to bring in people, and that's kind of one of the proxy fights that is happening right now. It's with the development.
Yep.
He thinks that they're not developing enough.
And we saw that with his ethics complaint, that he is connected to this organization that is trying to bring in low-income housing, which, say what you will,
sure,
there's value to it, but they did it in Bishop's Woods, which was a old former business park, now became they wanted that low-income housing there. They want to turn freaking Brookfield Square into low-income housing now.
Not everything has to be low-income housing.
Right.
Well, I guess to take it a step further, not everything needs to be housing, and not everything needs to be connected together.
Yeah. Not everything has to be walkable.
Correct. I know
which is probably what they want.
It's going to drive them nuts, but that's...
You can have cars. We don't have to be Europe and where everything has to be little brick roads and everything's 10-minute walk from it.
Or they're going to connect Brookfield to the hop.
Gosh, what a nightmare. So there's a lot of concerns. Brookfield, and the thing is if he wins, he's holding back probably a little bit, but for all intents and purposes, he's running as a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
Brookfield's still R plus 6 to 8 in a given year. That's not. Yeah, I mean, he can overcome that.
I think a majority of the board members or city council are in fact conservatives. It's always been a conservative leaning community, and there's been some squishiness now because again the Tosa bleed out and the Milwaukee bleed out because once liberals realize that they just are parasitic and destroy a community like Wauwatosa and again, like you said, ruin the schools, they got to move somewhere else and ruin the schools in that community too.
I think that's going to be the wake up call. I know as a statewide issue, property taxes has been the big thing, but it's going to be, school quality of the roads, basic public safety. I mean, we've seen the increase in Milwaukee's crime problem. So it's really up to the voters of Brookfield. What type of future do they want out of their city and municipality? And, I'm sure we all have some type of connection to the city either directly.
Well, it's just you got to build a firewall, and, Elm Grove, that's gone. Well, not totally gone, but I think it's all winnable. But Brookfield is definitely more winnable than Elm Grove and stuff that's closer to 124th, the county line and such. So if we win this, especially with the April election kind of as they are, that would be huge. And I don't think that's going to deter him. I think he's still an alderman. He can still be on the board and still come back. But yes, we need to make sure that we hold these local elections. They are extremely important, and they, those local elections build up to those big ones. So we need to keep this one.
1 point capstone here. So I will say I got one of his suggested Facebook posts, and so
really?
So I watched the video, and someone questioned why he's running. He claims that this is the only position that he wants to run for and hold, and that may very well be the case, but I have a hard time envisioning that I agree. I have a very hard time envisioning that if he were to win, have a string of failures as Mayor Brookfield and use it as a springboard upward, he would definitely take that.
He needs to be rooting against Robin Vining, because otherwise he's going to have a ceiling as long as she's holding that Senate seat.
Or he could go for county exec.
Yeah.
But I mean,
so here's the thing, though. If I can say it, just to kind of wrap this one up, I am only a little bit worried about this race. I know the current mayor, Ponto, has been there for a long time, well-known, conservative guy.
Yep.
I am a little worried because of his last name. Now, Hallquist, well-known in the mining, the limestone industry. Hallquist Stone is a huge corporation. I'm not saying he's tied to it. I don't even know. I'm not going to look it up right now. But just having a name that is associated with that area in a very big business can do a lot. I know when Ted Cannabis ran for office,
Cannabis,
yeah. R.I.P. His brother owned a landscaping company, and so cannabis yard signs were going up everywhere. And just so happens that every cannabis tree trimming, or what do you want to call it? I can't think of the word. Forgive me. What am I thinking? Greenhouse. Sorry. 3, 2, 1. And every cannabis greenhouse sign and tree trimming sign went up to, just elevate that name a little bit. And of course, Ted was running in a very strong conservative area, so it wasn't necessarily like he had to worry about it, but still, like that name ID. So maybe people are just going to see the Hallquist name. If they're not paying attention, they'll be like, oh yeah, that's that stone company. That's those people that dig limestone in the Sussex area. So that's something to worry about.
But I think age may play a bigger factor too. We're starting to see this statewide, but nationally, a lot of those that are 65 plus, they're starting to phase out. And
there is a rebellion against the gentocracy going on right now, and for the most part, I favor it. But then again, I'm going to put my partisan lean above.
Well, I hope it continues on, at least in Brookfield. So for the time being.
So, fellas, we got to talk a little bit what was going on this week with teachers.
Seems to be a weekly topic now.
Yeah, but you said when they're men, they're called pedophiles. When they're women, they're called teachers.
That's rough. That is rough.
I am not going to go into the full details of the one that came out of the Oconto School District, but it is bad. And so there was a federal civil rights lawsuit filed claiming years of bureaucratic negligence and a lack of accountability put children at risk. And this lawsuit alleges that the Oconto Falls School District allowed a pattern of sexual abuse to continue for 15 to 20 years from around 2005 to 2025. During this period, at least 11 staff members, including teachers and coaches, reportedly groomed and assaulted at least 17 victims.
I didn't even know it was that bad. I knew it was bad, but
yeah.
Okay.
So it's not.
And those are the people that are coming forward.
Yeah, and frankly, again, not to go into too many details. It's not just, I think, what you'd expect in that it's a male teacher and a female student. This was actually a female volleyball coach assaulting female players and grooming them by saying, I can get you on the team, or I can get you on varsity, and I can get you into the right school. Like there was, that kind of manipulation that took place. And when you're doing that to girls who are 14, 15, 16, they can have these trusted authority figures. They don't know necessarily what happens if they say no. They feel like they're going to get in trouble because they think, again, that's how they feel, or that's what their perception is. And this teacher, this former volleyball coach, took advantage of it. So the district had former teachers. 3 of them, I believe, two of them were criminally charged, and one of them was accused of grooming but not criminally charged. So this is interesting now because this underscores the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction's egregious cover-up of teacher misconduct that flourished under Tony Evers and Jill Underly.
So many points here.
Yeah,
so many points.
To remind folks, the Cap Times did an investigation in October of 2025 and exposed how DPI shielded 200 probes of educators for sexual misconduct between 2018 and 2023. And this, of course, like we said, goes back to 2005. In fact, that goes so back as far as when I was in high school. So you have Jill Underly, who's been covering it up. This goes back to when Tony Evers was at DPI and is covering things up. And now,
supposed education governor.
Right. And now we luckily have the anti-grooming bill, Assembly Bill 677, which is now Act 88. Governor Evers signed it into law, and we're not even going to get into the fact that he refused to hold a signing ceremony for that, and only Amanda Nedwesky found out after it was signed. But regardless, the whole point of the bill can now be in the act can now be applied to these teachers and other teachers moving forward.
So many points here. I think just hitting on some of the quick ones. First, it shows that there are way too many administrators in these school districts, but what are they administrating or overseeing if it's allowed to go on for 2 decades? I think the next point then is I think there was more than 10 plus people listed in there, or supposed suspects listed in there. How does it get to the point where you can put it on, more than, or on both hands rather, that there's that many suspects? Just mind blowing. And then 3, I did want to bring up the point too. It shows that, thank gosh, we passed this grooming bill, or the bill to, I guess, I think
the anti-grooming. Yeah.
It creates a definition.
Yeah, definition of what it is.
It allows them to actually charge grooming instead of just not making up other charges, but charging them for lesser offenses.
Sure. And now it's just in the same week, both stories come out where you got the bill passed and then the story breaks, and it just shows how relevant, it may not seem like the most impressive win for parents, but if this is the type of bills that we can only get passed now with the D still in the governorship, I consider that a pretty big win. And I think I'll just leave kind of with this final point. Regardless if you're a parent or not, and regardless on if you're in a home or not, you need to vote in these April elections for your local school board, and you need to ensure that school board is actively not only just involved with the school, but taking parents' concerns seriously. I mean, this, and again, this would be a type of story that you would expect covered up in the most Democrat progressive run area of the state. And we've seen those stories and we've talked about those. But for where this is coming out of, this should have been exposed long ago.
Well, and to do you one even better, Amanda Nedweski had a great video about this bill being signed, and she said that the guy that basically kind of spurred this whole bill, because he was charged with disorderly conduct, so he only faced like 2 years in prison. He got let out the day that it got signed.
Yeah, irony of ironies.
Yeah. So the guy who would have been charged, he got 2 years, and under the bill, he would have gotten more like 12.
Yeah, so he was charged. Christian Enright was the Kenosha Unified School District teacher who pled guilty to 15 counts of disorderly conduct, engaging in a months-long Snapchat-based grooming campaign targeting a 13-year-old student. Yes, so irony of ironies, he was let out as the governor is signing this bill, the person who brought this entire thing to our attention. So,
well, and also
stunning.
I think, and I know this has been kind of a narrative that is certainly breaking compared to years prior, but there seem to be more children harmed in public schools than the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church gets a lot of crap for, and someone who isn't a Catholic. Yeah, I think that priests should be able to marry. I think men have urges, and they should be able to do them in a Christian way. Okay, that's just science. Okay, that's just science. Okay. However, public schools seem to be assaulting kids more often than the quote unquote the Catholic priest trope.
Well,
and I don't even
now.
I mean, it has happened. It's not necessarily a trope, but like they do parade it as a trope. Like when they talk, well, what about the Catholic priest? It's like, I don't know. They've just been assaulting kids for the last 20 years, apparently, in Oconto County, and no one decided to say anything about it.
Right, and this was a cover-up, top-down cover-up. Again,
yeah,
similar
from
to the
the
Catholic
administration.
Church, but from the administration.
Yeah, so it goes back to the point, what are these administrators that we're supposedly, remember, we're paying all the property tax money to pay for these people and hire them. What are they administrating? And if they're administrating, I guess they're not taking their job very effectively if they're covering the stuff.
And of
up.
course, like I can sit here and be like, yes, there are good public schools, and like, yeah, sure, that's great. We can grant that. But these are also just the people that are reporting. Like 17 kids, 20 years. You really think it was just one a year from like one teacher? They're probably grooming multiple kids.
Right. And how many drop off because the kid pushes back and says no? Like you gotta,
Yeah, how many attempts?
Yeah.
And we're talking like people that actually like maybe fell into this. Like it's exponential. And it's similar to like the Cap Times article about Evers, DPI and such, about how the 200 misconduct cases. 200. That's just, it's probably 2 or 3 times that, if not more. I mean, I think there was some statistic that the Cap Times reported on that they said like 10% of kids run into some kind of issue, whether assault, grooming, maybe some kind of other inappropriate behavior. I mean, 10%. I mean, what's 10% of Wisconsin's school age children?
What's 10% of your graduating class? So mine was about 436. So that means 43.
And that's
44 kids.
And that's in one class.
Yeah, and that's
in
one school district. Yeah, yeah. One school.
So you multiply that, and you're talking hundreds, thousands of kids.
I mean, you're already at 160, 170 kids in this high school that I went to.
Now, I don't necessarily think it's every school,
Right. No.
As much as I love, parochial and private schools and how, private school or public schools should be, I don't know, maybe not done away with, but just have a lot more competition. Certainly. I don't think they'd get the de facto on everything. So just something to think about, parents, especially going forward. Any new parents, public schools, there are some good ones. You gotta find them.
Sponge, final thoughts?
I would say maybe as one other final thought here is if I'm Will, or if I'm some of these other legal organizations, I would be getting every sort of record from the DPI Stonewall that we can. Because, if this one's breaking at the federal level, then what else is behind the DPI Stonewall that we don't know that needs to be exposed? Because we already know.
Plenty.
What's that?
There's probably plenty.
There's probably plenty. And, Jill Underly has been somehow even worse than Governor Evers as DPI had.
Mm-hmm.
I do think Evers did care.
I think he cares in the traditional, exactly, in the traditional Dem sense.
Kind of the old style. I mean, he is old.
More money to the unions, to the teachers. And I would be willing to pay teachers more if this money was truly going to teachers.
Mm-hmm. As opposed to administrators
that cover this stuff
to
up.
The administrator.
Well, I don't know if you saw, I also
talk about
put this out on the X-verse, also follow me, Robin _Loss_Stan. The Milwaukee Democratic Socialists of America had this thing that said, no more money to administrators, more money to teachers in the classroom.
And
I'm like,
that was an MTEA thing too. Yeah.
I was like, dare I say based? Like, socialist, the horseshoe theory has come full circle here. But 100% agree though. Teachers in the classroom, you need some administrators, clearly. Okay. And, there's the kind of this old saying, well, it's not an old saying at all, but the United States won the World War II with single digit amount of 4-star generals. And now we have 100.
Top heavy,
yeah. And obviously,
and some of them are working with China.
Well, Mark Miley.
Yeah, we don't want to get into that.
That it's a little bit. I mean, also our military has exponentially grown in some respects from World War II. We maybe had more manpower in World War II, but there's something to say about administration. But the thing is we've lost 50,000 kids, but gained
6,500, I believe.
It's a lot of administrators, thousands of administrators.
According to Wisconsin Manufacturing and Commerce,
that just doesn't normal out.
Well, in the D theory, right? The liberals are always going to push for government control of everything. I think they look at schools as a backstop for every societal ill, and that's just
100%.
Yeah, but it's just not going to.
It's the petri dish.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're going to have school counselors. Okay, great. Little Tommy or Jenna may have some issues, and having a school counselor is great, but then it's always, okay, then you get into the trans issues, you get into the sexual orientation issues, you get into the body issues. And then from there, you also have the race apologists. You'll have those folks in there. And
it kind of
every
starts from public schools.
Yes, sociology, etc. So, we have the growth in administrators, but it seems to be what's the value add here?
I think the failure from the parental side is that, there's too many folks that still think, well, I went to public school and it was okay, or it was good. I liked my public school. I want my kids to go to public school because it was fine for me. And it's very different. And even, 20 years ago now, I just was at my high school reunion last summer. 20 years ago, like even then I saw those cracks of like the teachers were progressive. They were trying to force viewpoints on. You had to write papers that kowtowed to those progressive liberal viewpoints. Otherwise, you would be docked in grades. Now, I still had some teachers that were on the liberal perspective that weren't that way, but still, that was happening then, and it's only gotten worse. Exponentially worse over the few years. But I am so glad you brought up Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, because that segues so perfectly into our next issue. So, talking about another teacher that has found herself in some hot water.
Again, horrible week.
Yeah.
To be a public school teacher.
Again, seems to be a weekly occurrence.
Mm-hmm. So this one came from Libs of TikTok. Showed a TikTok originally posted by Emily Orens, a Sturgeon Bay High School family and consumer sciences teacher who went under the name Wisconsin Sunflower. And in the TikTok she posted a video in which asks students a survey on Google Forms of their preferred names and pronouns, and explicitly asks whether they want this information to be kept secret from their parents. Now, there is a bill in the Wisconsin state legislature. I don't exactly know where it is at this point, but we also know it's towards the end. But it was by Barb Diedrich and Senator Andre Jacques that requires all Wisconsin school boards to adopt two specific policies. One is that the legal name and pronoun records policy would govern any changes to official school rules, and a name and pronoun usage policy regarding staff referring to students by those pronouns and names during the hours, and that they can't be shielded from their parents. And that during school hours, school staff may not refer to a pupil who is a minor by using a name or pronoun that does not align with the pupil's biological sex without written authorization from the parent or legal guardian. So here you have a teacher who is trying to undermine parental involvement, trying to guide them towards this trans ideology, and again, hiding this all from parents. So I'm going to try and read from it really quickly. I just saw this tweet from Corey Brewer, came out on the 13th here. They sent a letter to the school board and school district of Sturgeon Bay urging them to investigate this and uphold parents' constitutional rights to direct the upbringing of their children. So Will has gotten themselves involved in this one.
So real quickly, it is insane that teachers still in the year 2026 of our Lord still post this stuff on TikTok thinking there's going to be no consequences. Mm-hmm. And I mean, this is the beautiful thing about Libs of TikTok is that they just repost what their own words. They repost their own thoughts. They don't alter the video. They just post the video and then they get mad.
They're just shining that light or putting that spotlight. Yeah. Which
is why this, and I don't know if she needs to be fired. She certainly needs to be shamed. And I'm sure the Sturgeon Bay School District is getting lots of calls about her specifically.
As the podcast here, we did reach out to the administrators and principal of Sturgeon Bay Schools to see if they had a comment on this. They've yet to reply.
We will see. Shocking. We'll follow up on that one. But this shaming, this public shaming, needs to continue until they basically say, "I'm not going to post this online." They might still do it, but the fact that they publicly put it out there means that they have no shame, or they think they won't get in trouble for it. Mm-hmm. It won't happen to me. No, this is like we're correcting behavior. It's like you commit a crime, you get time. Okay. Correct the behavior. You do it again. Well, escalator, you get more time now. You're trying to keep information away from parents, which is like a big no-no to begin with. Mm-hmm. Public shaming. You do it again, probably get fired. At least I would hope so at that point. But yes, this behavior needs to be culled from society. Like we shouldn't, like the trans ideology itself should be, but like the fact that teachers think that they can inject themselves into a child's upbringing. And of course they are a huge part of a child's upbringing as far as like the teaching, but not necessarily the rearing. And this is their stepping over a line. So this should be completely removed as far as socially acceptable. And if Libs of TikTok needs to be the disinfected, so be it.
Yeah, it refers to the phenomenon of the social transitioning, right? So not the supposed biological or medical procedures, which we have discussed at length. And
this is more of the nuance.
Yes, and we know my views on the pruning. But
not good.
Yes, the social transitioning refers to, it's okay. We can refer to little Jimmy as Jessica. That's okay.
Just a little change.
Exactly. And those little changes over time start to foment the larger changes that we start to see in society. One other point I wanted to make, and it bridges these two stories, the one we previously talked about and this one together. I think it is becoming more prevalent because technology is more prevalent, in the classroom, but technology and social media is just largely a bigger influence than it has been in prior years. And so you're starting to see more of the abuse cases come out, but then also these crazed TikTok videos come out because the access to social media is there. And, the white women on box wine and SSRIs, they got to get the social media points in, and this is where
it's the virtue signal.
Yeah.
Oh, look I'm allowing my kids to socially transition. I'm being conscious.
I'm hiding it from their parents.
Their parents might not be okay with it, but I know that they need to do this. It's just like a righteous pilgrimage for them. It's a rite of passage to being a self-actualized Democrat, if you will.
Let's not forget, though, there are parents that live in these progressive communities that maybe don't feel that way, but feel that social pressure, or their kids feel that way, that
it's huge.
Well, the only way I can become valedictorian is I might have the greatest grades in the class, but I'm not, bisexual or a trans, or I don't have they, them pronouns. And I got to do this, or maybe I'm feeling that way again because they have these pressures from teachers, which is, should be criminal, but they have it from, their peers or their, again, the other moms that
in due time
that think their kids are chihuahuas that they can just rename and
experiment on.
Exactly. So, fellas, can we still talk about teachers, but can we talk about UW Madison right now? A little sports talk that I know all of the listeners tune in for. So this came to us from the center square, but kind of came up in some news. So University of Wisconsin's NIL athletics bill would give the university $15 million for facilities, remove most college athletic spending from being a public record if that was passed by the state's Joint Finance Committee last week. Interesting thing about that vote, though, is it went 8-5 with Republican Senators Julian Bradley, Patrick Testin, and Rob Stachholt opposing the bill, along with Democrat Senators Kelda Roys and LaTanya Johnson. So even though Republicans have sponsored this bill about NIL changes, this would essentially shift about $14.6 or $15 million in funding annually to the school's athletic department for facilities debt over to the NIL program. So I think Dan O'Donnell really just created the perfect metaphor with this, and that's saying that this is the equivalent of the Green Bay Packers going to their shareholders and asking for $15 million to sign or trade for Max Crosby.
Before or after he has fent.
Yeah.
in his bloodstream.
Yeah. But in this case, I could see why, Senator Bradley, Testin, and Stachholt voted against this. Like, you're just shifting taxpayer money to directly buy what I assume are starting players for the flailing UW Badger football team.
Well, and the only comment I have is, do you want to win? You got to do it. Sorry. There are other schools that can pay a whole lot more money and have a whole lot bigger donor base than UW-Madison. So if you want to win, you want to be competitive, this is what you got to do.
But it's taxpayer money for NIL. Like, that's a tough justification.
And it's only $15 million. It's really not, like, I know it's not, it's not their money. It's taxpayer money. It's not, it's a significant amount. My biggest problem is on the open records request thing, where they want to shield some of this information, which makes sense. That way you're not telegraphing to people how much these people are making, how much money you're giving them. But if they want to be competitive, this is the world. You don't have to like it. I'm not even a giant fan of NIL.
I hate the NIL as it currently stands, quite frankly.
Well, the way with the transfer portal, all of the NCAA is all over the place. Where the NFL looks like a well-oiled machine, which it is in many respects, compared to the NCAA, which is all over the place. Like the transfer portal opens, and then they got 30 days, but then coaches have to decide to leave, but while they're still in the playoffs, horrible logistics.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to be competitive, and frankly, like the article says, 80% of the revenue for the school athletic program comes from football. You got to win. You got to improve. So you got to get better players. And that's just the reality. So anything else is cope.
But I think you have a giant base of alumni. And some of
It's
them
cope.
very successful.
It's cope.
That, you got to pass the hat before you come to taxpayers.
That too. But hey, UW is one with 3 stars. Where's the corn-fed Wisconsin?
JJ Watt
Midwest?
was a transfer from Central Michigan.
Yes, we won with 3 stars. We can do it again, but the problem is you do need some NIL, maybe the skill players, maybe spend a little bit of little change on that. But that's just the reality.
Sponge, thoughts?
I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of taxpayer dollars going to sports, but Shuttlegov Voss and I can maybe disagree on that. But I think I agree.
I agree with you in principle.
I agree to his.
But if you want to win, you got to spend money,
Sure.
and that's the reality.
Sure, I agree on the second part though. If we're going to do this, which I would be opposed to doing it, but if we're going to do it, open record should be a requirement. You shouldn't be able to hide behind that.
Now, what I find interesting, actually, there's 2 things. First is there are other states that are doing things to more incentivize players to come, and that Texas, Florida, Mississippi, Arkansas either have or are working on creating a no tax on NIL bill, which would, again, put more money in players' pockets. And I think there are players at the national in the NFL and other major, professional sports that look at certain cities or certain states that have jock taxes that have millionaire taxes and decide they're not going to sign with those schools. I think even didn't Starbucks just announce that they're relocating their headquarters from Washington because of the millionaire tax and that's going in there. So I can only imagine if you're a smart player, you want to get the most amount of money, and you already pay several tiers of taxes, pension. You owe money to
How many 17-year-olds are thinking about that?
Well, I mean, if you are a smart 17-year-old that knows that your odds of getting to where you are now is very slim.
Public school system.
Yeah, we just ripped it. I know. But so my hope is that there are other avenues and other ways that can incentivize players to come to the University of Wisconsin to play football or basketball that don't necessarily create taxpayer-funded NIL programs.
And I will just cap with, I love the thinking. I love the idealism.
Just win, baby, win.
Just, you got to win.
Now, the other interesting thing, and as we wrap this up, is with 3 GOP senators voting no, it means that the GOP does not have 17 senators in support of this measure. And, there's a long-standing tradition. Some say it's a rule, but I'll call it a tradition in the Senate that you need to have 17 yes votes from the majority to bring a bill to the floor. Now, with 3 legislators breaking off, it means they don't have that. And now Senate Majority Leader Devin LeMahieu, who is the author of this NIL bill, has to decide whether he's going to break this, call it rule of 17, to bring the measure to a floor vote, or, again, sit it in committee. And we'll see that Chris Kappinga was on Upfront on Sunday, says that legislators or majority leaders that break the rule of 17 don't have a good shot at coming back as majority leader. So is this Devin's hill to die on? Is this
I don't know.
The end of his time as majority leader?
That's a great point. I guess we'll have to see. I mean, there's still time on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this is all just hyped up for nothing, but I guess we'll have to see.
So
we'll get into that later.
So Shadow, I know this one is going to hit close to you. We're going to stay with the Wisconsin-Madison faculty. Again, we're talking about teachers and having a very bad week. So the unions representing the University of Wisconsin-Madison's faculty members and graduate students are hosting a Resist ICE Terror event on campus coming up in the near future. So this is for faculty and graduate students to know what to do if ICE shows up in the building. Want to learn how to talk to about your rights with your coworkers? Interested in working with others so none of us stand alone? They can learn the basics about dealing with immigration agents, go over how to talk to and develop a plan for your workplace, and discuss how your union can support resisting ICE terror, which leads me to ask the question, and I know I'm not the first to ask it, is does that mean UW is employing or accepting as students illegal immigrants? Shadow Gov, I know this is your wheelhouse. I'm going to just toss this softball over to you and let you knock it into the outfield bleachers.
No, I don't actually have much to say on this. And I actually was coming at it from the angle of like, are the teachers participating in this? Is this like a fully student-run thing? I'm being as charitable as possible. But if like this is a purely student-run thing and there's no faculty, like they came up with this on their own. I know a lot of these clubs, they get a lot of leeway with what they can do. Yeah. They get money, quarterly or semester, or by semester, allowing them to fund these little vanity projects. But if there's staff involved, that's a whole nother thing. And I know there was a report that came out that said, 70% of UW-Madison was liberal. It's like, thank you. Not 70%. I thought
much higher than that, but I'm glad we're starting to admit reality.
Dog bites man, news and weather at 11.
Well, yeah, the other 20 or 30% are just lying to themselves. They're, I'm a principled. I'm not a liberal. I'm just an independent thinker.
Or they're so far left that I'm not a liberal. I'm a communist.
Yes. That would also account. And then there's just like the 5% of conservatives that just say.
That work in the economics department.
Yeah.
Economics and engineering. Whatever other
right.
meaningful degrees.
That's my main concern is like, are we having teachers foment this stuff? Like, I'm just kind of tired of it. I'm a little exhausted of the ICE out stuff. I've seen it a million times. I've seen the Social Security Americans get all riled up. The Palestinian students, the actual Palestinians get mad about it. Like, I'm just tapped out on the ICE stuff. Like, sure, it's bad. I don't like that they're doing this. But my main concern again is the faculty encouraging it, which with the Palestine walkout stuff, there was faculty that was encouraging it. And not that the students need encouragement to do this stuff, but that's just kind of my main concern.
Sponge, over to you.
Yeah, I don't know. There may be some illegals either employed or as students at UW-Madison. I think if we feel that it's necessary to have such clubs or such activities, that there may be some improprieties that are going on that need to be rectified, which means mass deportations need to continue. But I think in general, I think all of us were, when we were in college, we subscribed or were members of various clubs, and some of them may or may not have been political. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. I think it's just when you get faculty that start to get involved and then start to force that upon their students, whether their students agree with that or not, and it starts to affect instruction and curriculum, that becomes a bigger issue. But
and of course, they're encouraging students potentially, again, we don't know, to resist law enforcement. I mean, just
that's so 2020 and 2015 now. I mean, resisting law enforcement, that's, who needs that? We can,
they control. The thing that I don't get is they control all the courts pretty much. Like, if you actually believe in the system, okay, you are alleged to have broken the law. Okay, accept it. Get taken away in handcuffs. Have your day in court. Petition the court. That's why we have the courts, right? But no, I mean, they have, I don't want to say they have full control of the courts, but like they get off on this stuff all the time. You would think that they would just go through the process, but they just hate, the 2020, now 2026 or 2025 stuff just with ICE. It's just misplaced, hate. But it all comes back to authority, law enforcement. Maybe they just have, maybe just daddy issues or something. They
I was just going to say, this is what happens when you don't have a father figure in your life.
Yeah.
It's also why they can't figure out their gender, their hair color, which tattoos they do or do not want with what piercings.
Want to talk for a couple minutes here about Tammy Baldwin, who has decided to put her Trump derangement syndrome ahead of a highly qualified candidate. So for those who may not understand, I'm going to give you the quick rundown. Since 1917, U.S. senators have had the blue slip process, which allows home state senators to kind of have a veto or a thumbs up on nominees for judgeships, U.S. attorneys, and U.S. marshals. In this case, we're going to be talking about Brad Schimmel, who was nominated for U.S. Attorney for Wisconsin's Eastern District in November of 2025 by Pam Bondi. He was allowed to stay on as interim until the appointment process, but Tammy Baldwin has decided she's not going to turn a blue slip, or is going to turn in a negative blue slip, which means that Brad Schimmel will not be retained as the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District, and his term has ended. Unfortunately, in this case, I think Tammy Baldwin has put her partisanship and hypocrisy in front of what is an eminently qualified man for this position. I mean, Brad Schimmel was a judge. He was a district attorney in Waukesha. He has the best resume you could possibly have for a U.S. attorney. And he even said he thought he had a pleasant working relationship with Tammy, but instead, tired Tammy Baldwin has decided she's going to not allow this Trump endorsement to go through. So, Shadow Gov,
where she mailed in the blue slip from. Was it from the penthouse?
The penthouse
in New York or Wisconsin? Because she plays part-time senator here.
I've never seen her in Wisconsin.
Yeah, what events have I've been to that she's attended? I've never.
Granted, I wouldn't probably go to a Tammy Baldwin event if my life depended on it, but
I need to highlight quickly, though, Senator Ron Johnson is continuing to advocate for Brad Schimmel and suggests the Trump administration should retain Schimmel as U.S. attorney and fight this as much as possible. I know, again, the blue slip thing is kind of one of those traditions, like the Rule of 17. That
you mean it's gay?
Filibuster too, right? I mean, I think we're coming to a point in America's tenure where I think a lot of these what have been longstanding traditions, what have been norms are starting to break down. And my point is, do we really think Ron Johnson from a battleground state is going to not put a blue slip forward? I mean, I don't.
Here's the thing:
have to fact check me.
He confirmed Biden. District attorney.
He understands what advice and consent means. He voted in favor of a. Let me see if I can find this quickly. I know he has voted in favor of not just Biden's appointees, but for judges or U.S. attorneys in Wisconsin that were Biden appointees, because again, he says it's advise and consent. That's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to muck up the process because of some partisan bullshit that, again, tired Tammy Baldwin has decided to put ahead of a qualified candidate. So we're going to have to stay with this one. I hope Ron Johnson's strategy comes forward. And, Sponge, I agree with you. I respect the filibuster process, but it can't be the way they do it now, which is say, well, I'm going to fill the zombie filibuster, or the silent filibuster, whatever you want to call it. Say, well, you tell the clerk or the majority leader, I'm going to filibuster this. And what it should be is bring back the Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Give me that 30 hours.
Ted Cruz.
Yes. You should, if you're going to filibuster something, you should have to talk until you can physically talk no more about it.
I go back and forth between keeping institutions or destroying. And the thing is the blue slip, it's not an institution. Filibuster, it's not an institution, although it's a big part of one. And so I kind of always go back and forth, between having these thoughts of, crush the idols or, keep them up. They have a purpose. But speaking of the filibuster, 60 votes. When are we ever going to have 60 senators in this day and age, as far as like Republican or Democrat? We're just so balkanized. Like,
true.
And what do we get? And of course, I understand that we unlock a lot of bad stuff for Democrats, but for God's sake, we can't even pass the SAVE Act.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on knowing everything inside the SAVE Act, but do I think that voter ID should go and be imposed on all those Democrat states? 100%. Mainly because we would win. Straight up, we would. It's not because of anything crazy or illegal. It's just a fact. And they like to say in Wisconsin, "Oh, voter ID suppressed." It's like more people voted as a result after voter ID than before. So there was more participation.
We talk about the left's argument for that is the soft bigotry of low expectations.
I just don't want illegals voting.
Yeah.
Is that really that hard?
It's racist, but supposedly these races can't figure out how to print off documents to obtain a free, because it has to be free or they consider it a poll tax.
See, my thing is, with the filibuster, we need to pass the SAVE Act. We do need, and we need to pass a lot of other stuff and repeal a lot of other stuff.
What we need first is a vote on the SAVE Act, and I think John Thune's going to come up with that, and I think that's going to put a bunch.
Show vote, though.
Yeah, but that's fine, because then we'll realize the fact that Mitch McConnell has no business
Tom Tillis
being in the U.S. Senate anymore. And Lisa Murkowski is at best a rhino, if not a secret Democrat, who's only running as the Republican Party because that's the party that will get her elected in Alaska.
Well, she also has ranked choice voting to help her out.
Yes,
which she got.
There was a ballot
initiative,
involved. I think, to get rid of that.
Well, there was one last time and it failed via ranked choice.
With that, fellas, can we wrap this up with a little issue that's a bit closer to home? Another lawfare attack, and normally I love Dem on Dem violence. I love it when they can't get on the same page. But in this case, we have Wisconsin State Representative Sylvia Ortiz-Velez forced to plead no contest to misdemeanor disorderly conduct charges that stem from a conversation she had with fellow Democrat representatives in which she was alleged to have threatened to share personal information with press unless she was included in a draft joint resolution honoring Latino veterans. And this has to hit close to home for Representative Ortiz-Velez, whose late husband was, in fact, a Latino veteran. She felt deliberately snubbed from a Hispanic Heritage Month resolution and took aim at Representative Priscilla Prado, who she's clashed with several times for intentionally excluding her despite an earlier invitation. So in the conversations they had and in retaliation for what she said to Representative Prado, Greta Neubauer, the Assembly Minority Leader, sent the Capitol Police after Ortiz-Velez. And thankfully, Representative and Assembly Speaker Robin Vos reviewed the facts and restored Representative Ortiz-Velez, who had lost her security clearance and access to the building. She was never charged with those cases, but in this one, again, this trumped up charge has Representative Ortiz-Velez facing a 90-day jail term and a $1,000 fine, but I think the fine is actually going to be closer to $300, and there will be no jail time in this. But again, you have Dem on Dem lawfare.
Well, my only point is that the Democrats play to win, and they are pretty good at it, and they usually get their way. And this just seems to be a very good example. Now, luckily, the only thing that the Democrats haven't been able to rig is the vote, at least in Representative Sylvia Ortiz-Velez's district. And she's going to have the primary, and she's going to have to fight it out herself. But they usually get what they want. So it would be a huge embarrassment to the rest of the Democrat Assembly leadership if she ended up winning. And we'll be watching that race for sure come August.
Sponge, give us your take here.
Really quick, the GOP, we have open arms. I know she doesn't want to walk through those gates yet, but open arms if she wants to flip. But I actually, I tweeted out earlier, I think she just needs to put the I next to her name and just kind of be an independent voice. I know she'll probably caucus with the Democrats mostly, but I think, she needs to put the I next to her name and leave. If this is the testament of the Wisconsin Ds as a party. If this is what the Wisconsin Ds want to do to one another, I think it's a testament to the new leadership that they're under.
It's become clear that you need to be in lockstep with Greta Neubauer. Otherwise, you are tossed off the floor. And we've seen this on several occasions. In fact, one of the things that I think led to this charges of disorderly conduct was when Representative Ortiz-Velez answered a question on the floor regarding other representatives being asked to leave so they don't take votes where they would side with Republicans, which, again, strategically, I don't know where that logic is when you want to have a representative who can show off some moderate, independent, and bipartisan bona fides that will get them reelected in their swing districts, sending them off the floor and sending them home for the day because they're going to vote on a Republican-led issue isn't the way to do it. So that strategy, doesn't seem there. I'm not ready to crown Sylvia Ortiz-Velez as the John Fetterman of Wisconsin politics. And yes, the GOP is a big tent, and we'd welcome her with open arms, but I'd rather see her in the assembly, even if that means she's a Democrat, wants to vote with us on occasion, and wants to expose Dem leadership in the assembly for what it is, which, again, like Shadow Gov said, is despicable and forced lockstep. And again, as I've said before, Sylvia Ortiz-Velez strayed too far from the Newburgh plantation and is now being punished for it. With that, folks, hope you have a great week. Hope you survived the weekend snowstorm. Maybe you got 40 inches. Maybe you got a solid 8. Maybe it's really just 6 and you pretend it's 8. And with that, Sponge, thank you for coming on the show. Where can folks find you?
Always a pleasure. You guys can follow me at Wiz, that's WIZ_political on X.
And you can find the Shadow Gov, like he said, at Robin_Voss_Stan. I'm Justin E. Phillips on X. New Fashion Pod can be found wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, make sure to like, share, subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Make sure to leave us that 5-star rating. It really does help us out. And with that, good night.